Welcome to the Embodying Excellence Podcast. I'm your host, Carlo, and I'm here with Brenden. How's it going, Brenden?
I'm going really well, thank you. What about yourself?
I am good. We had another big week this week. I have been working really hard on the businesses that I'm currently doing, creating content, creating a platform for the language teaching, the e-commerce brand I'm building, as well as the personal training. So I feel as though that I've got a real good grip on bringing those to life. So what about yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of that as well, like working on my own business, on the podcast, on just general work, on training, cooking, sleeping, a bit of everything.
Man, we're just brilliant jugglers, aren't we? Just trying to get everything done, and
yeah,
sounds like a lot of you probably go through that same experience with your own lives, and that's something that comes across as the reality and the norm. And I think it really ties into what we're going to talk about today, which is faith. And there are moments where sometimes what you have and the bases that you're covering might feel like too much, and that the things that you're doing may not be worthwhile to the long-term goal, or they might be worthwhile to the long-term goal, but you might not see yourself get there. And this is where faith is really, really important. And so what I want to do first is elaborate on our definitions of faith, and then how we can then use them in a broader perspective, so that then you get the most out of this episode of this podcast.
There's a few different ways I view faith. One is in terms of like the ability of a belief in yourself, and not just yourself, but in sort of other beings, like whether that be like if you're religious through God, or if that's in like belief in other people, or whatever it may be. There's that aspect, or there's just religion type, like in God, and that I'd like to touch on that a bit as well today, and like in faith in terms of your beliefs in God and how it determines the actions you take, and the morals you set for yourself, and something to abide by at all times.
My definition of faith is 2 words: unwavering courage. And the thing is, courage is one of those virtues that you need to act on in order for things to develop. And I primarily believe that it is the first virtue and the most important virtue, because your ability to be courageous will then help you then develop the virtues of gratitude, the virtues of patience, the virtues of kindness and generosity. And the thing is, it takes courage. It takes courage to have faith. And so, to me, faith is unwavering courage. And so, because there are going to be times where you feel like that you are going to waver, and that you're going to step back, you're going to withdraw, you're going to dismiss circumstances, ignore everything, think that things are really okay, when in potential reality they might not be. Yes, we understand that our reality is manufactured by our mind and the story that we tell ourselves, but also at the same time, we also have this ability to both be present and to be able to do something about it. And so one of my favorite quotes is Napoleon's quote, where he said, "All the scholastic scaffolding falls as a ruined edifice by the use of a single word, faith," right? And the thing is, having faith is beyond logical comprehension, because the thing is, it's not something that is easily articulated, and it's also not something that articulation can get you by. Like, I understand from my personal experience is that I used intellect and articulation to bypass the things that I was feeling. And the thing is, a lot of what I was feeling was a lack of faith, a lack of courage. I would waver in adversity. And so instead of facing those feelings, facing that lack of faith, I intellectualize things, and so it's very, very easy to get into the logical aspects of really why faith is important, but at the same time, it's also a feeling. It's also a genuine understanding that even though the circumstances are the way they are, that's okay, because you have the power with the courage that you display to overcome.
Yeah, 100%, and that comes with like actions as well. Like with the courage, like you have to have courage to put actions in, and fortunately, like people don't want to set aside from what the crowd says. There was something I shared yesterday before that was interesting on my Instagram, where there was an experiment done back up. It was probably in the 80s or something like that. It was where they had different lines set out. There was about 3 or 4 lines set out, and the whole experiment was that there was comparison to be done between this set of lines on this side and another set of lines over here, and which one numerically, like if it was 1 was this high, 2 was this high, 3 was this high, and so forth, which one on this sheet was the same on that one.
Okay.
And they were all part of it, or most of the people were part of it, except for one guy. And the first couple of ones, they all agreed on it, and then the second or third, or probably the third time, I think it was an obvious one, which one was matching up to the other one, and they all said it was the opposite one. And despite him thinking in his mind that it was a completely different one, it was number 3 instead of number 2, what they all said, he went on with number 2 because he thought that he didn't want to basically distance himself from the crowd, and he didn't have faith in his own abilities at that time, and he had to have rather than displaying courage at that time to actually say what he believed in, he just went along with it. Mm-hmm. And that's just a simple experiment with a line in comparison, let alone day-to-day life when there's stuff in the media or there's, say, certain affairs going on in life. People, unfortunately, just don't have faith in their own abilities, or don't have courage to actually say what they believe in, and then they just go along with it. And it only just takes one person to actually stand up for what they believe in, and then there's going to be someone else that follows it, and then faith, their own faith will increase as well.
I think Christ is a fundamental example there, when you say because despite the circumstances, despite what he went through, despite everything that happened, even when he was nailed to the cross, he looked up and said, "Forgive them, Father, for what they don't know what they're doing." And so he had that faith, that display of courage to go, despite all the wrong, I'm not going to act in any wrong manner, because the best revenge is no revenge. And so to have that tantamount level of both courage, patience, kindness, and the ability to understand fundamentally that everything was the way it was supposed to be, that is why there is such a big following towards it, because those stories, the way that they're written and the way that they're articulated, enable the person to feel as though that they can relate to them. And so people that will come to Christ, that follow Christ, that understand deep in their hearts that they're much like Christ and God's creation as God created them to be, it then enables them to then build on that, so that then the faith that they do feel comes from a higher power. And that's what a lot of faith is. It's beyond comprehension, it's beyond articulation, it's beyond understanding, which is why when you were giving me that example, if he had gone with his conviction, it would have been beyond all reasoning. But because he felt the need to fit in and go with what everyone else was doing, he decided to do different. And so I'm certain that there are stories in that text, the Bible, that of people that decided to go in the way of Jesus, where they had probably their own convictions, and then they went to spew hatred and all other vile things towards him. And then Jesus, being the compassionate, chill dude he was, he just decided to be understanding. He decided to take the courage to stand firm on his convictions and his beliefs, but he made it so in a way that the other person wasn't feeling judged, the other person wasn't feeling like that they were being attacked, that he did it in a manner that suggested that there could be compromise, there could be a conversation. And so then he used his faith to then profess to the person that there is a difference between having to say something and then having something to say, because a lot of people always have something to say, but then those that only speak when they have to say something, it has more weight, because you've met a chirper that chirps, and a lot of the time they're a bunch of attention seekers, right? But then the person who's usually reserved and quiet, but has that esteem and respect, which is another topic we'll get into later, when they actually say something, it has weight. So between a Pharisee and Christ, what Christ says often has more weight than what the Pharisee says, because the Pharisee is just all over the place, whereas Christ is convicted in the direction that he's going and taking that path, that that paved road that hasn't yet been walked down. And so faith means a lot to different people, whether they're in their religious beliefs, whether it's in their actions, whether it's in the circumstances, whether it's in their environments. Like you said, there's a whole variety of meanings when it comes to faith, but all of them I feel as though are rooted in unwavering courage to be able to speak your mind, and not only speak your mind, also understand and accept the consequences of the things you say, and then also be free to do whatever it is that you will, right? But also understand the consequences of your actions and your said will. And so one of my favorite sayings is that you can have freedom of speech, whether you have freedom after speech. That's also you don't know, right? And so that's also an important factor in faith, because if you don't have faith in what you're saying, then the conviction isn't there. You don't have the freedom at all. Not only are you saying what you think you should be saying, but also at the same time you don't have the conviction behind it either. So is there really a point in saying what you're going to say if you don't follow through, you don't follow up? And that's just a sliver of keeping promise to yourself, that you say the things that you're going to do and then you go and do them because you're backed by faith. If you aren't backed by faith, well, develop some. Do you know how you develop faith? By doing the things that you said you were going to do. And we've spoken about that a number of times, we don't need to dive into that, but being able to have the ability to have faith enables you to take the actions that you need to take, because epics of faith are epics of fruitfulness, but epics of unbelief, however glittering, are barren of all permanent good. And so if you're constantly replaying negative stories, then that taints your faith. It teeters in your mind, and then your mind begins bickering, and then you start projecting, and all these people now that are surrounded with you, they're getting your projections, and so you have this really off energy that people aren't accustomed to. And then what ends up happening is then you disintegrate not only your image, but the image that other people have of you. And then at the same time, no one really cares about that, but you care more than they do. And then the worse it gets, then the lower your faith becomes. And faith in yourself, faith in others, faith in humanity. A lot of the reason there isn't a lot of faith in humanity is because we're constantly shown the worst of humanity, which is what the media does, which is what other people do, and it's part of human nature, but it's not all of human nature. And so when we look on the other side of the coin, there is a lot of goodness, there is a lot of kindness, but having the faith to be able to act in spite of circumstances, in spite of relationships, in spite of environments, that ability then I feel supersedes every other one. Like to have faith, to have courage, to live the life that you want to live. Like I don't think there is anything more powerful than that.
No, and it's not a matter of sometimes like people unfortunately turn to like faith, like for example, I heard a story or that someone was looking for a car park space, right? And they were praying that they would get the car park space, right? And before they actually got the car park space, right? And before they even said like thank you, they just thought about the next thing. Like to me, that's just not actually like full faith in it. It's just reliant or dependent on that, trying to get something that you're after, and not having full faith in God actually doing doing something for you. It's just like shallow stuff. Like there's no depth behind it.
Yeah, and I feel as though that there are people out there that you meet, and then when you scratch the surface, all you get is more surface. And so a lot of that has to do with their, I wouldn't say inability, I would just say their unawareness of any depth towards their being. And so that's not on them, like, because the thing is, that's also our interpretation of how we see them, and the world shows me to me. And so when I make that assumption of somebody else, then I'm only projecting how I feel about myself within me, that there are parts of myself missing. And so with that being said, there are people out there that do that sort of thing. And so it isn't it isn't my place to go and judge that, right? And so, because that's the Lord Jesus Christ's thing to do, right? Like, and so for me, like when I exercise faith, I do my best to ensure that when I am that, the courage that I bring up also aligns with the values that I say that I'm aligned with. And so they marry into each other well, faith and values, because your ability to exercise faith that align with values that might go against the grain enables you to then be able to be free. That's true freedom. Like true freedom is that peace of mind, and having that faith enables you to get to that place, in my opinion. And so, having said that, there are people out there that just use faith as a means for shallow gain. And so I don't believe that it's faith that they're exercising. My personal interpretation is that they're using hope, right? Like they hope they get a car spot. And so in hoping they get a car spot, they say a little prayer, and they say a little prayer, and then they get that car spot, and it's on to the next thing, right? And so they use their will to manifest something, and they get that said something, and instead of being grateful, they move on to the next thing. And quite frankly, it happens a lot. It's a lot more common than I feel people recognize. And so, but at the same time, like being consistently conscious of that can be neurotic. And so there needs to be a line drawn where you go, is this faith? Is this good? Is this bad? Because no one's living in a straight line. It just doesn't happen. And so enabling yourself to be above somebody else because you exercise either goodness or somebody else uses faith as a means for their own gain, then to me that's a little problematic. And so, but we see that all the time. Like, we see people that use faith in the name of some vile action, right? And at the same time, to me, that is just neurosis, because a lot of what happens in those particular settings is that they use religion as a mean to exercise something completely vile. And I feel as though that there is a difference between religion and faith is the ability to understand where you are, who you are, what you're capable of, and what your values are by using your head and your heart. Where religion is a practice that somebody else has written that you've decided to follow because it aligns with how you feel. And so, and because then somebody else is doing said thing, it means, or you feel that, hey, you should do that said thing too, right? To me, that's a little dogmatic, but also at the same time, I can see why people would be hooked to that sort of thing, because a lot of what happens, it's day-to-day stuff. It's banal. It's, I want something more, right? And so, and that's where religion sort of jumps in. You can be like this amazing ethereal person who existed, who built this particular life and this particular way of living and has gained a following by doing so, who took the courage to stand up to the oppressors, who died for our sins, who then resurrected and entered the kingdom of heaven. And so for us, we're not going to be as mighty as Jesus Christ, but at the same time, in our own lives, we can also exercise that courage to ensure that the way that we live is both in accordance with the values ascribed in the Bible, if that's the way that you'd like to live your life, but also at the same time, you live a life of your own determined value, which may mean freedom or peace of mind within self, or that may mean living out a life where you get to have the coolest things in the world or experience the most awesome experiences and all do different things. But to be able to have those things, you need to be faithful, you need to be courageous, because you need to be and do before you can have, right? And so by being faithful, by doing the things that are hard, by instructing yourself that there is a higher version of yourself that you get to live out by doing these particular practices and being this type of person, you'll eventually have it. And so that to me is the sequence of faith and what it looks like, and it all starts with a thought in the mind. And so whether that's attached to religion, whether that's attached to personal psychology, whatever you decide, you need to make sure that the decision is in alignment with the way that you feel about yourself, because you're the only person that you have to live with for the rest of your life. And so understanding that is absolutely paramount to building out whatever it is that you see for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had several experiences where I've sort of has helped me lean on my faith due to stuff that's like not that I've been best to come away from. Like, for example, there was a deadlift incident last year. Like my faith in God had sort of increased because of that. I got away with that pretty well unscathed. So I was pretty lucky to come away from that and not sort of hit my head. And then there's been I had a accident a few years ago where I crossed the road on my way home from work I blacked out, and then I crossed the road when I was driving and luckily avoided head-on collision, and then I went into a ditch and woke up and my foot was still on the accelerator after all that. So that sort of made me lean more on my faith then, and actually led me to take more action because of that faith in whatever else I was doing. Like, they've all sort of basically, the way I see it is sort of, people may say that God wouldn't want you to go through them things, but if you want something from life, whatever what it be, say if you want to gain patience, he's going to give you things that require patience that come in front of you. If he wants to, in terms of that time, like my accident or deadlift, whatever it was, that time I wanted to improve on things, and that point I was sort of at a plateau that I couldn't move forward, or there was something not right there, and he gave me sort of a warning and somewhere where to move from. It's all different things that he sort of tests your faith in it, and if it's up to you whether or not, if you sort of lean on that faith to take actions going forward, or if you just want to keep going as you would in the past. And that all is, thankfully enough, a lot of people are leaning into their faith now. There's a bit of a movement now in Christianity across the world, and not other religions as well, but Christianity in particular, which is it's good to see. The only thing I see at the moment, which I don't particularly agree with, is when it's forcefully put on other people, that they've got to be this, they've got to be that. Like, to me, it's up to you. Everyone shows their faith in different ways and have their own beliefs. All you can do is be the best person that you can and hold yourself by certain morals and beliefs and all them sort of things to basically show or lead by example of what you can be as a result of your faith and as a role of a religion, and that helps people jump on board, rather than some people get put off by that if it's forcefully put down their throats, to me anyway.
Yeah, well, Jesus led by example.
Yeah.
He had 12 disciples who followed his example, and then one of the disciples, who happened to be an excellent marketer, got people involved with the Catholic Church, and then that mission and that movement grew to what it is now.
Yeah.
And so being able to fully grasp the fact that you get that opportunity every single day in your everyday life to exercise your faith, to exercise your courage to do the right things, and to be able to lead a family, to be able to lead a business, to be able to lead the way in inspiring the next generation to become better human beings. That in itself is the example. And so to me, I think the Bible is a good textbook to live in accordance with valuable insights and valuable experiences. And so to be able to not only grasp what the text says, but to be able to then implement it and really ingratiate yourself with what it says, and then live out the way that you would with its help, that helps you then build the foundations for living that highly regarded life. And so, and I want to stress this, that this isn't the way, the exact blueprint for you, but also at the same time, if you are willing to put that faith on the line and give your life to Christ or whichever religious denomination that you follow, then by practicing its values, you enable yourself growth, and you enable yourself the ability to consistently exercise faith. And I also want to clarify the difference between that person and a zealot. And a zealot has no consideration for the way that other people think and other people act, and they're very forceful, and they're very, hey, you need to do things this way, or it's the highway, or it's your life. And that's not how faith was brought up and exercised. However, we are human beings, and so there is a malicious side to humanity as well, which is constantly exploited. And then we also have a benevolent side as well, which is constantly seen, constantly used, but also constantly exploited and taken for granted as well.
Yeah.
And so you need to recognize that faith is unwavering courage, and it's unwavering courage to live on your terms, to live on the way that you bring yourself up to be. And so there isn't a right or wrong answer, but at the same time, actions also have consequences. So if you do see that an action that you're taking doesn't align with the way that you feel, or the consequences of said action are not what you'd expect, and you'd like things to turn out differently, you'll need to do something different. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And so you can have all of these different interpretations of faith and courage and action, but at the same time, like, real life is the testing ground. And so you can hypothesize, you can theorize all you like. You can listen to this podcast and consume all of the information, but then if you do absolutely nothing with it, then you have no tangible evidence that what you think works or what we say works. And the reason we bring all of this up today is because we have lived our lives in this particular capacity, and this is coming from our experiences so that we help shape the rest of our lives. And so I can attest that I didn't have a lot of faith in my personal training business. I didn't have a lot of faith in myself and who I am, and I didn't have a lot of faith that I would have the peace of mind that I feel now. But in saying that, through developing faith and developing courage, I've been able to reshape and reconfigure the way that I think, and it's helped me achieve a level of peace of mind that I've never achieved before. Like, I get feelings of excitement, I get feelings of vigor, I get feelings of possibility when I consistently apply myself. And so I think that can be added into that definition. Faith is the application of it's a consistent application of unwavering courage. Like that, I personally think that could possibly define what faith is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about that, like that action and having faith in your own abilities as well. So I mean, I've seen that people have used their faith to do so many things, and that helps the world as a result. Like it's good to see in that respect, and
I think that sums up this episode. Thank you for tuning in. May you have unwavering courage. I wish you consistent application of said unwavering courage, and that you live your own life on your terms. Until next time, stay excellent.
Please like, share and subscribe to the show, and have a good one, guys.
See you in the next episode.